The fact that the cannabis industry is alive and well and growing in the state of Connecticut is nothing short of amazing. What I want people to understand is this is not standing up a program. This is standing up an industry that's going to affect community, it's going to affect business, it's going to affect taxes, it's going to affect the economy, it's going to improve lives, it's going to give opportunity, to those people who may not have had opportunities.
In my adulthood, it was, at least in urban communities, it was marijuana usage was definitely stigmatized to a great extent, and looked at something that you shouldn't talk about. And if you are caught with weed, then you're more than likely going to be arrested or at least harassed by the police. The smell of burnt marijuana gives the cops a reason to stop you, and gives them a reason to now pat you down, and gives them a reason to harass you. And I think it really was demonized and criminalized in urban areas with the distinct purpose of harassing Black people. With the law change most recently, now police can no longer use the smell of burnt marijuana as a reason to stop someone. There still is a lot of history and a lot of harm that has come as a result of the war on drugs that has left a very bad taste in people's mouths and has destroyed families and disrupted communities. And so trying to now embrace a plant that has been surrounded by so much negativity is difficult.
If you walked into a CVS and your medicine wasn't available, how would you feel about that? Patients are our most valuable asset in this whole circle of cannabis. A medical patient is the most knowledgeable, they're the most loyal, and they are the most returning customer. Weed,
cannabis,
marijuana,
cannabis,
weed.
So to be clear, we're all growing cannabis sativa. That's the Latin name for the cannabis plant. The thing that I always say to people coming into the shop and asking me the difference is, if you think about brown hair and blonde hair, those are encoded in your genes. It's genetically distinct. It's no different with cannabis. So they're all part of the cannabis sativa family. And it's just about the genetics that are in the seed that you plant, whether or not you're going to have a high THC plant or a high CBD plant. What I'm interested in are plants that are a little bit closer to some sort of hybrid. So I grow high CBD plants that have less than 0.3% THC. But to the average person walking into my greenhouse, when the plants are in full flower and all the terpenes are in the air, you truly can't distinguish whether it's marijuana or CBD.
In 2012, Connecticut legalized cannabis medicinally. In 2021, Connecticut became the 19th state to legalize cannabis recreationally. Across the state, there has been an increase in the abundance of female leaders standing up for cannabis and the plant's users, both recreational and medicinal. And this documentary seeks to highlight the voices of women across the state that are making that change via the plant, healing not only communities, but healing individuals as well.
One of the things that, at least for me, that was missing was really a woman's voice in this industry.
There's a very small population of women in the cannabis industry. However, I do believe it's growing.
There's a perception that men are inherently better growers of cannabis for some reason, but there's some badass female growers out there for sure that, can come to the table with anything. Getting a seat at the table is the challenge. But I think once there is a seat at the table, women can affect real change. I see that in Connecticut. On the social equity side, there's some pretty powerful women trying to really drive change.
My name is Ginny Ray Clay. I am the Executive Director of the Connecticut Social Equity Council. I am born and raised in the city of Waterbury, Connecticut. The Social Equity Council was established by law in 2021, July of 2021. Governor Lamont signed into legislation the legalization of adult use cannabis in the state of Connecticut. And the purpose of the council is to make sure that those folks who have been impacted by the war on drugs have a fair and equitable seat at the table in this new legal adult use cannabis industry. We're trying to remove the stigma. So now we're standing up and we're legalizing cannabis in Connecticut, so you still have people who were affected that have criminal records. So the Clean Slate Act is now wiping clean those records without even those people asking. It's just an automatic. The other biggest impact was on those people who are coming back to our communities who have been in jail as a result of the war on drugs. And when they come back, most of them to nothing. They come out of jail with the prison uniform that they had on. We're working on programs where folks can get their ID, they can get training, they can get access to education, they can get access to capital, they can clean up their capital. One of the things, like I said, that is very typical that we all know, our children are affected by the war on drugs, and this economy has affected our children. Our children are dying, our children are bored, our children are stealing cars, they're going to jail because there's not programs necessarily for them to entertain them, to keep them occupied. So one of the things we wanted to do very first is to support programs that are supporting our youth. Okay, so a lot of it is financial literacy, a lot of it is workplace or workforce development, some of it is the arts. You know, our kids don't get enough arts because the first thing to go when you're cutting programs is you're going to cut the arts programs. So we're looking to give communities and we're looking to give kids back those kinds of programs. We are providing an accelerator program, which is a 9-month cannabis university education for our cannabis supply chain, our social equity cannabis supply chain. And we're doing that with Oaksterdam University, which is a true cannabis university out of Oakland, California, and our local partner, Reset. In addition, we are creating, and we have created, a small business or a cannabis business loan program. And so we're funding for the cannabis industry because it's not legal on the federal level. It's very difficult to get capital to get your business up and running. Our Social Equity Council created a $10 million loan fund. We're about to replenish that with another $10 million. So our fund right now is at $20 million. And we're opening that up to social equity applicants that need working capital. They need just a little something to get them going, to get their business up and running and started.
My name is Tiana Hercules. I'm the founder of Lady Jane CT, Connecticut Cultivation Solutions, as well as Connecticut Retail Solutions, which are a cannabis lifestyle brand, a cannabis intimate wellness brand, cultivation, and a retail in the cannabis industry here in Connecticut. We do a myriad of things. The product line is the main thing, but also cultivating experiences for people to come and learn about the plant, be in community, and leave with some more than they came with. And so that's also part of the mission as well. I currently reside in Hartford with my 3 amazing children. My background is that of a criminal defense attorney. I've always been passionate about making a positive impact in my community, advocating, using my voice to advocate on behalf of those who are marginalized. And the criminal legal system always intrigued me, wanting to be a problem solver in that space and seek more justice in that space. Certainly wanting to get involved in the cannabis industry was inspired by my passion for justice and really recognizing that economic opportunity and changing the economic trajectory for people of color is really what we need in order to make the change that we want to see in our community. And how do we access those opportunities that can lead to economic empowerment? And so certainly seeing that this industry was booming in other places and that it was, people were making a lot of money and Black people were just not around those tables by and large. And knowing the history, it just seemed like further insult to injury, for Black and brown people to be so harmed by the war on drugs. And now that we have this legal industry, we're not benefiting from it. And so that was part of the impetus to want to just even get involved in the industry and want to start really just figuring out what it's all about and what's going to happen, how it's going to take shape here in Connecticut, and whether or not people who come from my community will be able to be part of this. And so through my own personal journey with wellness and wanting to just connect better to my humanity, coming to the plant as an outlet to cope with stress, to cope with anxiety, depression, particularly during the pandemic, it seemed like something I wanted to learn more about, wanted to advocate for, and really share that with other women in my community, and women who like beautiful things, who like beautiful experiences, like to engage with their products that speak to them. And so I wanted to create something that would, be appreciated by women like myself, women who care about their well-being, women who care about their intimate health, And so it just was a culmination of all of those things coming together to come up with Lady Jane. And, we do a myriad of things. The product line is the main thing, but also cultivating experiences for people to come and learn about the plant, be in community. When you come into our dispensary, you will be able to experience this product a little differently than you experience just your typical run-of-the-mill cannabis product. That you'll have someone who is not only expert in the flower and the plant and terpenes and the effects and all of that, but also intimate wellness and the interplay between women's intimate health and how cannabis can be an aid in that, in really helping women address, or those who love women, or help address those concerns that they may have when they engage in intimacy. And it's a more personalized experience. It's a boutique, customized experience to the consumer. And so I'm excited about it, and excited to really talk more about the interplay between the endocannabinoid system, cannabis as an aid, and intimate wellness, and bringing those things all together for women to be able to live their best and highest lives.
My name is Anne-Marie Louise Rosado. I am the owner and founder of Higher Health in Meriden, Connecticut. We do medical recommendations and certifications for people who would like to obtain their medical card. I'm also a full partner and owner at Himalayan High in Beckett, Mass, which is a recreational facility. So I've been really blessed to be able to be in this industry and learn both the recreational and medical aspects of the industry and navigate the changes. I began this journey being a patient advocate. In my 40s, I became a widow due to the opioid crisis. Before that, I started advocating to have chronic pain passed as a condition, because this would give people the option of using plant-based medicine as opposed to opioids. And that was in 2018, I believe. 2017 or 2018, and then we finally did get that passed as a condition in 2019, which was bittersweet for me. But many people now are really benefiting from that. My late husband deserved better than to be overprescribed. So this is why I do this. I am the daughter of Sicilian parents, military father. So I was constantly getting in trouble for cannabis. And then both of my parents were diagnosed with cancer. And as they became more debilitated, they actually were very curious about it. So at the time, we did not have legalization. So I was finding myself becoming more curious about it myself, more in a professional fashion, asking hospice nurses about it, asking professionals about it, but it was still taboo. Don't even ask, don't talk about it. After they passed, I ended up finding what I could about it in Connecticut. And one day came across a class in a newspaper. I met a gentleman, his name is Mark, and Mark and I are still very close. And he was an advocate. And he taught me how to testify. He taught me how to read legislative bills. And then once I got into it, it was almost like I got obsessed and I couldn't stop reading them. And it just started from there.
I'm Dr. Rebecca Getch. Everybody calls me Becky, and I'm one of the owners here at Running Brook Farms. Running Brook Farms itself is a third-generation family garden center that is my husband, his son, and my father-in-law. I also have sort of a spin-off company called the Herbery at Running Brook Farms, and the Herbery is sort of the herbal and cannabis side of the business.
Most of the herbs there, and I carry a couple other women-owned brands that I really like, as well as the plant medicine I make. And we put the little cafe in 2 years ago.
I joined about 7 years ago now, but shortly after I joined, it became clear to me that I needed to carve out my own niche here. In a family business, we all have our own passions. We all work together to make the big picture happen. But within that, we all have our own specialties and our own passions that really drive our creativity and our interests. My background's in molecular biology. I got my doctorate from Yale in 2005. During the time, it was a really exciting time in science because the Human Genome Project was just sequenced. So a lot of the research that I was involved in had to do with DNA sequencing. And then I went on to like a decade-long career on the biotech side of the DNA sequencing industry. When I met Scott, the founder here and the owner of Running Brook Farms, I had just quit my job in sales, in biotech sales, and I was sort of at a crossroads in my personal life. I was just entering recovery and getting sober, and I knew I didn't want to go back to that lifestyle. So he afforded me the opportunity to come join the family business at that time, and so it's been nothing but probably the most rewarding thing that I've chosen to do. You know, I had no idea that I would find such a connection to farming and to the community through farming, as well as plant medicine. It's been an amazing journey. In 2018, the Farm Bill had passed, allowing for the cultivation of hemp to become federally legal. And Connecticut adopted a hemp program in 2019. And so that really sparked, because I have a background in biology and medicine and my scientific side of the piece of my personality, drew me to wanting to bring hemp as one of the crops that we grow for the medicinal value of CBD primarily. So a lot of people got into hemp farming thinking that it would sort of save the farm, and we thought, you know, perhaps it would be a good source of revenue generation. As the market has emerged in Connecticut, the CBD marketplace has emerged on a national level, making it really challenging to be strictly a CBD business due to you know, just marketplace challenges where it's oversaturated essentially. So the price point for hemp from a farmer's perspective has dropped to the point where it's not really a valuable cash crop. So so with all those dynamics at play, what this business has evolved is to be sort of, hemp is just one of the many medicinal herbs that we grow. I use my acreage where I grow the hemp outdoors to cultivate about 35 other medicinal plants. And that's where the herbery piece of Running Brook Farms has evolved to. Being with the plants, they speak to me in a way that I'm very open to, and it's really powerful to walk into a grow area with all of this plant medicine around you. It can take your breath away sometimes. You're just like in awe, knowing the people that the plant helps and knowing how it's affecting your community and how it's helping heal is something that is always present with me.
So part of the council's charge is to reinvest in communities that have been disproportionately impacted. Not only the individuals, the people who have been impacted by the war on drugs, but the communities that have been impacted by the war on drugs are, I guess for lack of a better word, made whole. The communities that have been devastated by the war on drugs, where police were kicking in doors and they were arresting people, and then communities were not reinvested in. So you have blight, you have burnt out buildings, you've got unstable communities as a result. DIAs are disproportionately impacted areas. Those areas are defined by poverty rate and conviction rate. So we've worked with some state data collectors, and so we look at those conviction rates and we determine what communities have the highest drug conviction rates. We also look at the areas that have high poverty rates, and we take those two numbers and we go through the entire state of Connecticut. That's what helps us to determine a disproportionately impacted area: high conviction rates and high poverty rates. So the first thing we're doing is we've already put out a pilot program. It's $6 million of funds that went to 6 communities in Connecticut. And we knew, the council is a very, very smart council. They're folks who have lived experience in the war on drugs. And so we decided that in our pilot program, we were going to focus on youth and re-entry programs. So we put money out into the community. Those folks who are doing that kind of work, what we'll call unsung heroes, the people who are looking at and they saw things in their community and they just started programs. You know, they started to have after-school programs where there was no after-school program in a community that may not have been reinvested in, or the kids couldn't get to a recreation center that was 2 miles away because of transportation. In addition, we're hosting several community conversations throughout the state. So what's important to the council is to hear from those folks. I mean, certainly as a council, certainly as state agency representatives, we could put money out there and we can say, well, you can use this money for this. And that's not what we want to do. We want folks to say, well, listen, I could use a program that helps me do this. I can use a program, or my community could use a program, or we could use these kind of amenities. So this is where we want you to help us add value and vitality back to our communities.
I moved to Hartford about 12 years ago, and my first introduction really to the Hartford community was through going to law school. And I was really inspired by the Asylum Hill neighborhood. I fell in love with the architecture, fell in love with the history of it, and always thought if when I buy my first home, I would love to buy a home like some of them that are in Asylum Hill. And when we were looking for our first home, we saw this house that was built by NINA, which is a Northside Institute Neighborhoods Alliance, and essentially they rehab and revitalize the Asylum Hill neighborhood and trying to increase home ownership. And so purchased the house from there, became one of their first community board members, which was a really interesting experience, gave me a lot of insight into some of the issues and opportunities in Hartford as a community, and how I may be able to use my voice and my skills to help move the community forward. And so I really consider myself an advocate and a champion of Hartford. I love Hartford. Recently served on city council, and again, like every experience is like a learning opportunity and a way to really learn how you can contribute and how you can coalesce with other like-minded people to make a difference. And so now in this entrepreneurship journey, really wanting to figure out how you can, be on the cusp of an emerging industry, be a pioneer in this space and help invoke change in your community, utilizing your business as a platform to do good, not only from the standpoint of hiring people from the community, but leveraging some of the profits and investing directly into the community to make a positive change. So those are the things that I'm passionate about. And women's wellness and well-being is a central theme that really flows through everything that I do, wanting to do it with ease, with beauty, with grace, and most of all with love. So when medical marijuana became legal here in Connecticut, there wasn't a lot of, at least from what I saw, advocacy around releasing people from prison who are in jail for, cannabis convictions or erasing records. And so to me, that voice, that social justice voice, was by and large left out of the conversation. In addition to that, there wasn't a lot of folks advocating for access to medical marijuana for people of color. And so I was happy to see, certainly through all the advocacy and the people on the front lines for this, once it became adult use, ensuring that social equity and criminal legal system reform was very much part of that conversation. It didn't seem as an afterthought, erasing records and trying as much as possible to position people who have been harmed by the war on drugs, whether by way of their income or by way of where they were born or where they live currently, were able to get some type of priority status to the process of accessing a license in this industry. Even in my experience as a criminal defense attorney, trying to get probation officers to understand the importance of folks being able to utilize their cannabis, to quell, anxiety, depression, and different things like that, post-traumatic stress disorder, and things of that nature, and why that medicine was important.
I try not to give actual clinical medical advice, because it's herbalism and it's plant medicine, and we typically don't do that as herbalists. But what I can say is that the healing properties of CBD are vast and very individual. It's going to be different based on your individual composition. But in general, it's excellent for anxiety. It's an excellent herbal ally for sleep issues, insomnia, and that kind of thing. Pain management, it's anti-inflammatory, so any inflammatory diseases, and especially joint pain and rheumatoid arthritis, the salves are very effective for that. and just a host of, it's sort of an all-purpose healer, if you will. There's a term in herbalism called adaptogen, and that speaks to a plant that basically is considered safe at any level of consumption, which CBD is, and non-specific, meaning it can work wherever your body needs the healing, the plant will target. And so I view CBD as, or hemp as specifically, a heal-all, if you will. One of the beautiful things about being a small community-based retail outlet is I actually know my customers very well, and we work with each other intimately to try to figure out what's going to help them, ease their discomfort or their disease. And so what I see with CBD is pretty remarkable. I have some remarkable stories from, an older woman in my community who suffers from MS and has been taking the CBD regularly for years now, since I started growing it. And she is practically relieved of her symptoms, of her daily angst and symptoms associated with the MS. And certainly I have a lot of folks that it helps with anxiety management. That I think mental health is it's really powerful for mental health. The people who seek out the CBD as an alternative, I see them decreasing their dependence on pharmaceuticals for sure. Maybe eventually stopping their pharmaceuticals and transitioning strictly to the plant medicine. Obviously you would do that with under the care of your doctor prescribing the medicine, but it's known to happen, and it's pretty incredible.
So basically, getting a card is a lot more simple than people think. Basically, you do have to have, there's 40 conditions that would make you eligible for obtaining your medical card. The most common diagnoses are PTSD, chronic pain, migraines. But like I said, there's 40. We had 38, but in the last year or so, we've added 2 more. So basically, if you have proof of that diagnosis, you just jump onto my portal on my website. My website is higherhealthlife.com. You go right onto the website, fill out the intake, and then there is a place to put the diagnosis. Submit that, and then everything is virtual. You can get your card from the comfort of your own home. And the beautiful thing is, this year we did eliminate the card fee. There was a lot of us that advocated for that to be removed, which used to be a $100 fee. That's gone. So you submit that, you submit it into the state, and it used to be that you used to have to wait like 5 weeks to get your card, but now the state is processing them in like a couple of weeks. They email you a card, and then you head into the dispensary. As a medical patient, it is my huge recommendation to sit with a pharmacist. The nice thing in the Connecticut program is that every hybrid dispensary does have a dispensary pharmacist on site. We do always forget that this is medicine for people. Right now, Connecticut is being challenged by the shortage of medicine. We don't have enough producers growing medicine. But we have too many dispensaries. We do have producers in the works, but in the meantime, how do we deal with that? How do our patients survive? And I say that because I'm noticing the prices are going up in the dispensaries. When you get to the dispensary and you can't afford things, your world can crumble. And it's also going to be an issue when it's truly not the strain that's going to help them, or not in the form of consumption that's going to help them. If you have a certain debilitating condition, say PTSD, Crohn's, chronic pain, certain strains of cannabis are going to work better for certain conditions. When our patients can't obtain medication, what happens? Patients may turn around and go back to the opioids that they used to use. Just this month, Connecticut has become the most deadly state for traffic accidents. We have had the highest number of substances found in accident victims' bodies nationwide. So it's not just cannabis, it's everything, but we have to find out why. Is it because we can't go to the dispensaries and everyone's selling everything else? I did the first driving study in the country where we got people super high with the police. And then we added alcohol. And we got some amazing results. And I was ripped apart on LinkedIn, every social media site, because I was called a snitch because I did this. And this was actually to bring people together and make our law enforcement understand what could be found in a vehicle. I had a full table of every product, regular, illicit. I went into bodegas and bought whatever because it was my job to expose them to what they may find in a vehicle. By the time this seminar was over, all of these police officers and state troopers were engaging and touching and asking all these questions. They had not seen these products before. So to me, that was breaking barriers between law enforcement, consumers, patients. So before we jump the gun and get upset at lawmakers, get upset with the DCP, get upset with the dispensaries or the growers, we have to kind of step back and say, okay, how can we fix this? Instead of everybody getting angry.
You know, I've been doing this a long time, you know, and I think that I have been trained my entire career. I started here at the Department of Economic and Community Development, where the Social Equity Council is housed. So we're administratively within the Department of Economic and Community Development. Without community development, without economic development, strong companies who are going to employ people, you have to have smart people. That means you have to have trained people. Without those elements, you don't have an economy. All of the work that I've done with this department and through the several governors that I have gone through and the communities that I have been involved with, I think I've had an opportunity to see a lot of what has happened historically and how this state and these communities can be changed with the partnerships that we have through economic development, through the Department of Consumer Protection, through Office of Policy and Management, through the other elected offices. We're working together, you know, to make sure that we are having the impact. And I think that I've had that kind of experience. You know, I've worked at the local level, I've worked at the state level, I've managed federal programs. So I really feel like I'm positioned, you know, to understand what these communities are going through because I've provided services to them before.
One of the things I'm most hopeful for is for operators to work together. You know, there's strength in numbers, and we are, you know, kind of a very small minority within this very, you know, new emerging industry. And so us working together, sharing best practices will only help make the whole industry stronger in the state and be a better benefit to our consumers and to our patients, for those of us that are doing hybrid or, you know, those of us that are still medical operators. So as long as we kind of continue on that path and not lose the spirit and the importance of doing justice through this plant and all the things that will come from it, all the seeds that will germinate from it, yeah, I think we're going to get it right. Again, it's still very new, and so we have to figure out how do we build up all the things that support the industry in the state. You know, how do we expand it by creating experiences, being able to create destinations around it, making it a normalized consumer product like wine or any other adult product, and making Connecticut an attraction, or, you know, because of it. I think that's where we're going to see a lot of growth and potential for the plant in the state.
It's not about competition in this industry, and unfortunately, that's what it turns into. Networking is important, and it is so imperative in this industry, because if we don't collaborate and work together, we're not going to make changes in this industry. I would like all of us to come together, because this is really crazy. I don't look at you any different than I look at you, and I would hope that you wouldn't look at me any different. We have over 1,000 providers in the state of Connecticut, over 1,000 people that provide the service that I provide here. And I'm the only person advocating for patients. Myself and one other person showed up for these medical hearings to speak on behalf of patients.
But the ideal model in my head would be a bunch of small operators, you know, being able to build their brand, contribute their unique passions to the space, create a craft industry that really reflects, you know, the personalities and the individual contributions of the people who want to be involved in this space and are passionate about it. As a hemp farmer, I'm also president of the Connecticut Hemp Industry Association. And so we've been working for 2 years trying to get the hemp side of the industry. You know, we've been growing, like I said, cannabis sativa for 4 years. We've built infrastructure around it, we've built expertise, we've trained and mentored people. So the fact that they don't let us contribute in the recreational market is frustrating. We have dedicated all this time to learning how to cultivate and commercialize the products. They're CBD products, but nonetheless it's still cannabis products. My products are federally legal and tested. So in Connecticut they've changed it so that you know, pretty much about half my product line, if I wanted to continue making it, would need to be sold in dispensaries. So there's a couple reasons I have issue with that, which is, first of all, the core of my existence, the core of the reason why I'm here is to be a community herbalist and to work directly with the people who are seeking my expertise and my knowledge. And so if it goes into a dispensary, nobody's getting that interaction with me to understand why I made the product the way I do and why I think it would be beneficial for them. So that's one reason. And second, I specifically do not create any recreational products. Everything I do is non-intoxicating. So for my customers to have to go to a dispensary to purchase it, where the entire focus is on the recreational market, is a real disservice to my customers too. They don't want to be in those spaces. They want to come here. They want to buy a chai latte, a houseplant, and some CBD. It would be a real shame if all of the Beckys of the industry disappear because, you know, we can't sell our products legally anymore.